Okay, I'm gonna try this again. It's my second video, and I had to do a couple takes this time. Anyway, it's all for the glory of God, right? So as I begin, I just pray that someone, even just one person out there, will be touched by this and change a life. Who knows? Little old me. Oh, well, maybe not so little, but anyway. The first video that I did yesterday, and one of the viewers talked to me a little bit afterwards and brought up something that I thought would be a good topic of discussion. And so I am going to go to the Bible, which is the holy book of Christians. And not to say that it isn't without its controversy, confusion, some would say even what's the word I'm looking for? Contradictions. And let's take Leviticus chapter 18, verse 22, for example. Now that particular verse says, "You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. Such a thing is an abomination." Now, for those of you who don't know, that entire chapter and chapters that lead up to it are basically talking about two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. And they were supposedly, anyway, destroyed by two of God's angels for the sin. I want to make it clear that I'm not calling it a sin. Not me personally. I'm not making that. I'm not saying that. The writer of Leviticus is saying that. And the sin of, according to the writer of Leviticus, the sin of homosexuality and rape is what got those two cities destroyed. And so my good friend, who will go nameless because there's no need to mention names, but this friend of mine said, "You know what? Your first video, it was nice and everything, but it didn't really do justice for people who are gay," who this friend of mine happens to be. He happens to be a gay man, and he's a great guy, but he feels very, to say the least, marginalized by the new president and vice president, by the government in general. And he wanted me to address anyone who watches this and get my take on it as someone who adheres at least somewhat to the Christian faith. Get my take on it. Someone who to a certain degree, I haven't gone, I haven't studied the Bible every single day of my life, but I know enough of it to know where he's coming from and to know that there's other verses in the Bible that seem to be contrary to the love of God. So that's the beginning of my take. But what about this country? What about people like Trump and Pence, who are elected president, vice president, who are very outspoken about denying the rights of people who identify themselves as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, questioning, whatever the case may be. And earlier, when I tried to film this, it didn't quite work out. This is a retake. So anyway, earlier when I did this, I thought to myself, who decides which parts of this that they adhere to and which ones they don't? Do you leave out certain things? Like, why is it okay for certain churches to have female pastors speak when Paul spoke, saying that women shouldn't even talk in church? Now, why is that not being adhered to a little bit more closely? Not that I agree with it. Some of my favorite speakers and authors happen to be Christian women. Some of the best preaching I've ever heard in my life came from Christian women. So, was Paul wrong? And so if you ask that, then you must have you have to ask, well, what about the rest of the Bible? Is that wrong too? And I would have to go with no. And here's why. This may have been inspired by God. Okay? These events happened. To what degree of accuracy they happened, obviously, only time will tell, I suppose. I mean, right now we don't know the degree of accuracy of anything that's written in here. We know some of it, but certainly, for example, the Garden of Eden. I mean, did Eve really talk to a snake? Really? I mean, did she or didn't she? I wasn't there. But what I'm getting at is this. Ultimately, although maybe guided by the Holy Spirit, by God, the fact of the matter is that when it comes down to it, ink was dipped by a man, a human being with flaws and thoughts of his own, and wrote from right to left, probably in Hebrew or maybe Greek, whatever, and translated, and sometimes poorly, into English. And obviously, I mean, when they show pictures of the Dead Sea Scrolls from which we get the Bible, or at least parts of it, you can see actual pieces missing. So what are those missing pieces? Again, what I'm getting at here is human error. Human error. I'm not saying that there isn't a God. What I'm saying is that people make mistakes, and we need to stop making these mistakes. We need to put we the people back as it was. You know, Trump talks about getting rid of foreigners. Well, pretty sure the Native Americans would have liked a president that got rid of the foreigners too. I'm simply speaking my mind. And not everyone is going to like what I have to say. And I've accepted that. That's why I'm doing a second video. So, for those people out there who feel marginalized and being abused and bullied because they're different or even thought to be different in any way, I was bullied. I'm not gay, but I was bullied. It was, I was beat up, kicked around, laughed at, teased. I was hurt. I even attempted suicide. Yeah. And here I am trying to tell you that it's not right how we treat one another. No matter what it's based on. I don't care what gender a person is or feels that they are. That doesn't mean anything to me. Or the color of their skin, or what country they came from, or think they came from, for that matter. Or wanting to be here so bad that they don't go through the so-called proper channels to become a citizen so they can have legal wages. This country is backwards. It's not we the people. And it hasn't been pretty much since we came over here and took over. So, I don't know if any politicians are ever going to see this. I doubt it. And I don't know if anything I say or pray about will ever come to pass. But I would really like to see a United States where people are equal, no matter what gender or race or whatever is going on, where everyone is free to marry whomever they want, as long as it's for love. I want, I believe in true love. I'm happily married. So, why not? We're all equal in God's eyes. That's my belief. So, you claim to be a man of the people or whatever. You want what's best for America, but politicians not doing anything seems to be destroying America. So maybe you need to rethink what you're doing. And I'll even take it a little step further too. I heard there was a story of a girl, and not too far from here. I live in Buffalo, New York, by the way. But anyway, she could kick a football, amazing. She great talent. What? But she's a girl. She's the wrong gender. Now I know that there are legitimate concerns, but in 2016, shouldn't we have grown up by now? I would think so. And, threatening to undo this and do this and threatening these people, and I mean, you go around, so-called Christians going around yelling and screaming at military funerals and yelling at gay people. Where's the logic and love in that? If I weren't already a Christian, to be honest, I don't think I would be, because I see people act like that and I'm like, well, I don't want any part of it. And I would like to be a person, just a person, that tries to change that. Because I would like people to see the benefits, and I can testify, and I probably will eventually, to some of the benefits that of prayer and fasting and some of the good that's in this holy book, the Holy Bible. And it's in there. It is. But people aren't going to read it if you're yelling and screaming at them and saying they're going to hell because they're gay or transgender or lesbian or whatever. If they're doing shock treatments and all these other nonsensical, pretty much torturous things to people because they don't fit a certain thing, and well, my holy book says that you're wrong and you're going to hell because of it. Well, ultimately, we'll all know in the end. I mean, I said in my first video, and I'm saying it again, we'll have to face our Maker one day, every single one of us. That's what I believe, anyway. And I hope that my good decisions outweigh the bad ones. That my faith in Jesus is enough to tip the scales, maybe. No one's perfect. I don't know. But we gotta... I'm going to talk to Christians right now. I'm going to challenge Christians right now. Anyone out there who considers themselves a Christian. Specifically Christians. I want you to think about what I said about Sodom and Gomorrah. I want you to think about yelling and screaming at hateful things at people because you don't agree with their lifestyle. I want you to I want you to think about Jesus cleansing the temple because it was turned into what he called the den of thieves. Basically a farmer's market, basically. He didn't like that. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think of faith healing people. And I want you to think of, well, what about when a good word comes from a woman at church. But wait, the Bible says a woman can't speak in church. That's just one example. And there's probably other ones. I haven't studied it that much. I've tried to focus on other things when I read the Bible. Just a few thoughts. I want you to dig deep into your soul. And the same for people that reject Christians for how other Christians act. I'm a Christian. I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm ashamed of how some of my so-called brothers and sisters treat those who are different. So if any of you out there who are watching this happen to have an alternative lifestyle, which I think is a ridiculous term, but if you're out there and you're gay, lesbian, transgender, you're not sure, whatever, I want you to think of how you treat Christians, or other people of faith for that matter, of different faiths, different from mine. And I'll think about it too. That's something to think about. Thank you.